Who has the demon voice?
Not me.
That would be me.
I don't think this can continue with the demon.
It's pretty funny, but I don't think we can do the podcast with a straight face.
I'm kind of fond of it. I was fooling around with my settings for the sound card and found it, so I thought I'd give it a try.
It's pretty terrifying, I have to say.
That's kind of the idea.
All right. I guess we should get started. Welcome everybody to Gcast episode 64. This is the first episode we recorded since September. Aside from, we might have done another episode, but I might have lost it. We might in the that Super Mario World thing we did, which I think Sarge was a part of.
No, the other Joel is me.
Oh, that was you? Okay.
It's me and Sonic.
Right. I actually the call recorder for that apparently crashed, and after like the first 30 minutes, it's like just like a monotone buzz in the audio file, which is fantastic.
Sweet.
Just what people want to listen to.
I mean, it's better than us. So, yeah. So we'll just get started. What have you guys been playing? Actually, let's introduce. We have sixsicksixes, Sarge, and Malice with us tonight. Say hi, everybody.
Hello?
Howdy.
So yeah, what have you guys been playing lately? Six, why don't you go first?
I've been playing actually quite a few Pac-Man games.
Like Championship CE for the Xbox Live Arcade.
Not quite. I wish I did have it though.
I heard it's really good.
There's an app called Pac-Man Plus Tournaments, and they updated it so that there was a tournament for its 35th anniversary.
Is that a smartphone app?
It's for Android.
Okay. And how did you do in the tournament?
Well, I beat all the mazes, but I didn't really get that high of a score.
Probably did better than I would have.
Yeah.
Very modest.
All right, Sarge, what have you been playing?
Well, I was messing around with with Halo Anniversary the other day.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, when it first came out, a friend of mine and I, who we've been playing Halo together for years and years, we got it and we played through the co-op together online, which actually didn't perform all that well. There was a fair bit of lag from what I can recall. So I actually went back just now this week and played some of it myself, and it's interesting because you can switch back and forth between the original and the updated visuals with the press of a button in game. So you can see just how sort of nostalgia makes you think the game looked better than it actually did. I mean, it's still not a bad looking game considering its age, but you know, when you see the level of detail and the changes in lighting and texturing and everything that you can get with just sort of reskinning it with more updated technology, it's pretty stark to see how far we've come. I mean, environments in the original version just look sort of empty in a lot of cases, which, you know, can serve for certain looks, but not necessarily all the time.
Right. I was very impressed they were able to pull that off.
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually. You can tell that they put some time into it. They're very keen on sort of preserving what the players were originally into in the first place. And but apart from that, I've been actually plugging away at Diablo 3 a little bit lately. They've done some more patching and added some more things and reworked some things. So there's a little bit of reason to get back into it, just because it's sort of like every 4 to 6 months it plays a little bit different than it did the last 4 to 6 months. So there's reasons to get back into it and spend some time with it. So
yeah, they're probably gonna keep
gone back to
supporting
the character that I first created when I first got the game, and sort of updated him, and now he's actually useful, which is nice. But yeah, that's about it for games.
Cool. The Halo anniversary thing. It's like I remember when Smash Brothers Brawl came out, and then people started playing it, and they're like, "Well, this kind of just looks like Melee." But you go back and play Melee, and it's like looks not nearly as good. It's kind of weird how they did that. Same with like a lot of the GameCube games, really. Like you kind of lump Wii games in with how they look, um, but then you go back and play, and your nostalgia kind of clouds things. Um, but as for anniversary, like even when you do the switch back to Halo 1, it's still looking better on your TV than it did back then. Like that's still like a step up from how it originally looked because it's being played, in HD on an HD TV,
Right, it's got a different aspect ratio, because back then in 01,
Mm-hmm.
widescreen wasn't really popularized yet. Everything was still kind of letterbox.
Yep.
For home entertainment, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So, other Joel, Malice, what have you been playing?
Actually, I don't know what day is it. Saturday, so it would have been Thursday night. I finished an 85-hour playthrough through Xenoblade Chronicles.
Oh, the new one?
And I'm playing on the original Wii version.
Okay.
My brother got it years ago and never actually played through it, and I was like, I'll totally play through it.
Yeah, that game's
so
super rare.
Yeah, it did, which I was glad he happened to have it. And honestly, it was a really good game. Like I really enjoyed it. It was paced really well.
Mm-hmm.
There's piles of just side quests and content,
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't know that I would have shortened my playthrough a lot by skipping a lot of side quests. I didn't do them all
Mm-hmm.
because the nice thing about the side quests is they keep your experience going so that you're not bogged down grinding for levels on fighting enemies to keep progressing the story at a steady pace. And I mean it was just a pile of stuff. I mean it was just so much happening, and then, you look back and it's just like, man, all that stuff happened, and I was really satisfied with the experience
Yeah.
by the end of it. I was really impressed just how much game they put on a disc.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people were thoroughly entertained by that when it came out. I got it. I have a copy sitting here. I got like 5 hours into it, but I just got distracted by other stuff. I've been meaning to go back to it. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's a huge game though. It's like
yeah,
very, what's the word? Foreboding or formidable, trying to like tackle that whole thing.
yeah. I mean it's a pile of stuff. The areas you wander around in are just gigantic, and just there's just stuff everywhere. You spend hours just wandering around areas and finding all the locations and all
Mm-hmm.
the landmarks and stuff, and it's just like, have I finished this area yet? No, where have I not explored at? So like, yeah, I finished this expansive immersive game like 2 days ago, and I just started tinkering around with the new Puzzle and Dragons Super Mario Bros. Version
Oh yeah.
on 3DS. Well, I tinkered around with the mobile version a few years ago, and I thought it was amusing. And then this version came out, and I was like, that looks silly and looks like something I could dump a billion hours into, and I probably will.
I don't know.
But I mean, it's fun. It's a neat twist on match three, I think, and there's enough challenge to make it worthwhile. Yeah, it's not a total pushover as far as like Puzzle Quest games. I found tend to be made really easy, really quickly, and
Mm-hmm.
I think this game is going to require you to at least pay a little bit of attention to get through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea, but I downloaded it um, for my phone, and I couldn't really stick with it.
Yeah, I can sort of understand that.
Do you have friends that play, or just kind of going solo?
I mean, it's mostly a solo experience. I mean, the the quote unquote multiplayer features aren't super prevalent as far as I can tell.
Hmm.
Like you field a team of either monsters or little Mario creatures
Mm-hmm.
to go through dungeons, and you have kind of a leader that has a specific ability, and you have all your little minions. But then you get like a backup leader that gives you an ability,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can share a leader through Spot Pass that other people can pick up and kind of borrow and use.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if you've got a really good one and they're just beginning and just want to cheese through and make things a little easier on themselves, they can sort of borrow a high level character.
Hmm.
and work that way. And I think there's some score attack mode where I think you can share high scores. I haven't really played around with that all that much. I've only put in a handful of hours since yesterday, but
Hmm.
I mean it's something you can pop in on, spend 5, 10, 15 minutes, and probably get a little something out of it, and just especially something you can get digitally,
Hmm.
and it's not very big. It's like 7,000 and change blocks to download, I think.
Right.
So it's something you can just, especially the digital version, you can just have it there. It's always there. It's always something you can just come back to and play around with and get something out of.
Mm.
And then you don't have to commit to 30, 60 minutes to get something out of it.
Yeah. I could see how it could be very addicting.
It is. That's why it's not in my field of vision right now.
I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart 8 recently, especially the downloadable content, which I didn't really. I played through each new cup like once or twice when they came out, but now I'm kind of like really hammering into it and trying to get uh, triple stars on every one. I'm still kind of too much of a wuss to check out 200cc seriously.
200 is so silly.
It's absolutely insane. Although my friend did turn me on to the breaking while power sliding mechanic. Apparently, you don't. It like still creates sparks or something, just not as fast.
Yeah, it's weird. Like 200cc is a completely different experience from 150.
Right. And
Sounds like a mode I'd play.
and yeah, I've been looking online like what kind of loadouts do people generally like, and it seems to be like the opposite from 150cc. Like in 150, everybody prefers like the heavier characters like Pink Gold Peach and Bowser and that kind of thing. But in 200, they all prefer the lighter characters, but because they can take those corners much easier.
You need that control.
Yeah. So I've been looking into that. I've been tinkering and playing around with it, but I haven't mounted a campaign to tackle triple gold stars in 200cc yet. But I'll get
think I have
there.
the patience to do that.
I'll get there. uh, yeah, but the new courses have been a blast. I really like Animal Crossing. I like both F-Zero tracks. They're really well designed. In general, I really like tracks that uh, are one continuous track and not 3 laps. Um, I get a kick out of Baby Park, but I don't really take it that seriously.
You like running like 10 laps around that course?
Well, the actual course itself is fine, and I like the chaos of it in a way. But my biggest problem with it is I don't know who's in front of me and who I have to pass. There's
Yeah.
like 50 people like right in your field of vision, and you don't know. You're like in second place, and you don't know which one of them you actually have to get in front of.
Yeah.
So that's kind of difficult. But otherwise, it's a nice throwback. It's a nice DLC course. Like I wouldn't want it taking up a slot in the actual release, but as a DLC track, sure, fine. Um, cool. Moving on to our second topic. Since we've been kind of out of the loop for a while, Gcast wise, a lot of stuff has happened. This is kind of old news. But I want to talk about the whole PT Konami thing. And I figured that most people here have an opinion about how it went down. So have you guys?
Why don't you give us the rundown regardless?
Sure. So, last year, Kojima and Guillermo del Toro collaborated on a new playable teaser for a Silent Hill game they were working on called Silent Hills, and it would star a likeness of Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. And they released this playable teaser without any kind of Silent Hill or Konami branding, so nobody knew who made it. They just kind of dumped it on the PlayStation Network. People downloaded it. There was a lot of ways. There's a lot of like experimentation, so like nobody knew how to beat it. They had to like collaborate online, and you had to like hum something into like your microphone for part of it, and there was a lot of crazy shit it was doing.
That sounds very Metal Gear.
Yeah, it was very Psycho Mantis in a lot of parts.
Yeah.
And so yeah, people beat it, and people really enjoyed it, and it seemed like a Silent Hill game was actually going to try something new for once instead of like constantly like rehashing the Silent Hill 2. Oh, we have this character who has a dark past, and we have to make a psychological. The monsters are manifestations of his psychoses, and we have to torture him about the bad thing he did. Which is the room kind of got away from that, but like Silent Hill 5 and 6 kind of tread that old ground. Shattered Memories also kind of did its own thing, but people didn't really like it, who were Silent Hill fans. But yeah, so they released PT last year, and then earlier this year there's a huge behind the scenes falling out between Kojima and Konami, and it seems like he's going to leave the company after Metal Gear Solid 5 completes. And so they've been scrubbing Kojima's name from like all the past releases of Metal Gear games, so they don't say like a Kojima Productions, whatever.
Is that legal?
They're doing it.
Huh.
And so just a couple weeks ago, might have been 2 weeks ago, PT got delisted from the PlayStation Network store, and Sony is now banning consoles that are sold with this on it because it's tied to their user account, and you're not supposed to be able to sell user accounts. So they've been banning people who have been like letting other people play it, basically. And if you haven't downloaded it until now, you're kind of screwed. You can't download PT, you can't play it. And Silent Hills, the game itself, was canceled. So that's kind of the long and short of it. So kind of Konami are being bastards about a lot of things, but this kind of rubbed people the wrong way because it's like you're depriving people of an experience it's like not costing you anything to leave it up there, right? Like what, you know, um, and it seemed like a really cool game that like if I got a PS4 someday, I probably would have downloaded it if Silent Hills wasn't out already. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of bummed out. Um,
Yeah, that sounds like a really capricious sort of move. I mean, whatever kind of falling out there was must have been a pretty serious deal for someone to go as far as that
it,
and to attempt to sort of try and erase the existence of Kojima at Konami.
yeah, it doesn't seem like it seems very scorched earth. But the question is whether there's like personal drama behind the scenes, or is it just Konami doesn't want to be making console games anymore? A lot of people think that Metal Gear Solid 5 will be pretty much it for them, and then we'll focus on mobile games and their fitness franchise in Japan, which is apparently very lucrative.
Well, I think there's no better way for them to sort of lose, I think, potential interest as far as a shift in their preferred platform goes than to sort of do stuff that makes their customers, as they are now, angry about things.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem to be a logical decision,
Mm.
and really the whole thing. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it. This is the first time hearing about it, mainly because I'm not really a fan of the survival horror genre in general. There are very few games in it that I've enjoyed. Silent Hill is not one of them,
Mm.
or any of the games in that series. So this was news to me, but it sounds like sort of personal issues between people in high positions who have the ability to do things like this that are
Yeah,
they have pretty wide-reaching effects.
yeah,
And yeah, so I'm betting execs had a pissing contest or something like that.
yeah. Something happened. We'll probably get the full story a couple years down the line. But yeah,
Maybe.
it's a big head scratcher right now.
I think the most disappointing thing about Konami saying that they want to focus on the mobile and gambling markets is that they're not the first Japanese game company to do this.
Well, no, but the other companies didn't like actively try to piss people off either. I don't think.
Yeah, there's the burning bridges aspect. That's the curious bit.
Right. And I think one of the companies might have been Square or one of the maybe it was a smaller publisher, but this publisher kind of went all in on mobile, and then they kind of dialed it back to like mobile supplementing their console games just because the space is so competitive and the the amount of money you can get out of each user is quite small usually. So I think it's going to have to be a balance for big companies like these as they try to uh, grow with the market. And with console games, you can say whatever you want about them dying or being marginalized, but these are people who went out and bought a multi-$100 game console specifically to play games. So there's a dedicated base there, and you have to put a lot more into the budget for games, for those games. But basically who you're marketing to.
Right. I mean, I think anyone who sort of works in a professional setting or is even a student knows that most of the people, not all, but most of the people who are really apt to buy the new phones every time they come out and run through apps and all that are not the same kind of people who are going to buy video games, at least nothing that's costly.
Exactly.
And I think also some developers kind of jumped the gun on moving to the mobile market because now what we're seeing and what we started to see towards the tail end of the last generation was sort of opening up console platforms for games that are developed with a smaller budget on a smaller scale and on full price titles that you
Time out, time out. You're kind of getting distorted. Does anybody else hear this?
Am I?
That was
No.
just you.
I don't hear it.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just me. Sorry. Start over.
Wait, start over where?
Uh,
I don't know when you started hearing me wrong.
I'll continue then.
Okay, well, I was kind of finished with my thought anyway. But basically, what I was saying is that what we were seeing towards the end of the last generation, what's continued into this generation on the consoles, is there's a lot more accessibility for smaller scale game projects that aren't, $60 in a box on a shelf kind of things.
Exactly. Actually, this conversation about lower end games being more feasible kind of leads into the next topic, which is the Bloodstained Ritual of the Night Kickstarter, and probably Kickstarter in general. It's been a provable platform for these kind of retro revival and smaller scale games. And Bloodstained broke through. I think it reached its goal. It's like a 500,000 goal, I want to say, in like 3 hours or something, and it's sitting pretty on a couple $1 million right now. And this is a Kickstarter for a Metroidvania game by Koji. Somebody correct me.
Is it a G or a G or a J? I mean,
I can't remember. Igarashi,
okay.
who directed all the Metroidvania games on the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS.
Ooh, I liked some of the ones on Advance. Fusion was a fun one.
No, not Metroid games. Castlevania games.
Oh,
sorry.
Castlevania.
Yeah, the Castlevania. Yeah, all of those were really good.
I heard a lot of good things about. Was it Lament of Innocence?
That was one of them. Dawn of Sorrow was really good.
Dawn of Sorrow, yes.
I think that was the first.
Yeah,
that was the first DS one.
I haven't played a Castlevania game in a long time, but I do remember having some fun with them.
Actually, he's most famous for Symphony of the Night, which people kind of say is like the pinnacle of the genre.
I think that might have actually been the last one I played. That sounds really familiar.
That is not a terrible game to end on.
The PS2, but it was...
that's a PS1 game, wasn't it?
Oh, PS1,
Yeah.
right. But it was still sprite-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why it was pretty.
Yeah, it's one of the few PS1 games that actually aged well.
Yeah, that's because they didn't go with the 3D at the time.
That
was kind of like the first foray.
What's that, Six?
I said that sprites tend to age better. That's why that game still looks alright, and Final Fantasy VII looks unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually bought Final Fantasy VII on Steam, I think last winter, and played through it. I hadn't played it in years. It was fun, ran all the way up to level 99 and did all the optional stuff, the optional bosses, and, the gold chocobo and all that stuff. It's still a hell of a lot of fun, but goddamn, it's ugly.
Well,
Yeah, Final Fantasy VIII didn't look too awful when I played it a couple of years ago. I own 7 on Steam, but I haven't played through it because I did everything that needed to be done, including like beating a boss without choosing a command. That was kind of cute. But like I was like, what else is there to do? I mean, yeah, I could play it again, or I could play something else I haven't played already.
well, I think the problem with that game's looks is like in the overworld, right? They all look like super deformed, but like not even like
Yeah, they
regular
went with
super
that
deformed. Like
disproportional look.
like it's not like Final Fantasy 3 or 4 DS, but it's like their shoulders are like these giant round things, but then like their arms are like sticks.
Yeah, yeah, and then their
Popeye
hands are
arms.
just sort of like clubs.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, it's that weird style that looks kind of like Alexander Lewis's picture with the gigantic heads and everything.
Oh,
Yeah, the only thing in the game that still looked any good were, the sort of pre-rendered backgrounds that they had in some of the areas, but
Mm.
anything that was sort of, actively moving in the environment looked pretty terrible.
Well, I'm sure the cutscenes were passable too.
Yeah, they animated really stiffly, but they at least had sort of a clean look to them.
Mm.
yeah.
Nostalgia. I should get around to playing that game.
It's a great one. It's one of the all-timers.
Did they
It's
carry that
it's, it's
style
worth
over
it.
to 8 or 9?
What's that?
Did they
In the
carry
visual
that same
style,
style over to 8 or 9?
The visual style? Nah, eight's a lot different.
Okay.
eight's
Yeah.
pretty realistically.
Yeah,
The word I'm looking for is something.
yeah. Eight doesn't really go with the sort of super stylized look that you see
Proportionate.
in
That's what it
seven.
is.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone is proportionate. Everyone looks like actual humans instead of like anime characters.
Interesting.
I mean, they
Nine
still
kind of goes
have.
back to the shorter characters, I guess, and a little more exaggerated features. But
Yeah, nine
eight,
is cartoony.
Hmm.
I want to
Nine's my
replay nine,
favorite.
but they need to put that one on Steam.
Hmm.
Make a PC version, put it on there.
On Final Fantasy 9,
Yes.
I don't think that's going to happen because 7 and
It,
8 were already on PC.
I know it won't happen, but I still want it to.
Yeah.
I just wonder how many times they're gonna tease a remake of seven before someone actually finally does it.
Do you
Because it's
guys
been two
remember?
generations in a row now, and they're like, "Hey guys, here's a trailer of the part where Cloud jumps off the train. Look at this tech demo. We're totally not going to make a remake." And everyone's like, "Okay, cool. They'll announce it." Then 10 years go by and they don't announce it, and we're just kind of like, "Fuck you guys. What's wrong with you?"
Do you remember? Maybe it was TGS last year where they're like, "We're bringing Final Fantasy VII to
Yeah.
PS4."
Yep.
And they looked so baffled when people like started booing when they showed it was like the PS1 version. They're like,
Yeah, because
"Why don't you
everyone
like
knows that,
this?"
like, if you want the PS1 version, you can play it on your PS1, your PS2, I think some PS3s or your PC. So, like,
No, but it's coming to
nobody.
PS4.
Right.
Be excited. Uh, I think that just showed how out of touch Square can be sometimes.
They are a pretty idiosyncratic bunch. They do weird stuff that other people don't do.
I think we will probably get a a remake of Final Fantasy VII eventually, but it's
It's too
like
popular.
it's the last it's like their last card they can play, really. So I think they're just kind of delaying that, until they're like really in dire straits.
Like, we have no money left. Let's do something we know will sell 5 million copies at least.
Final Fantasy VII remake for iPhone.
That's a good way to lose your business forever. And that would be something where you just have to get everyone together and boycott them on principle. It wouldn't even matter if it was a competent remake. It'd just be like, no, you just pissed on everyone intentionally.
But what if they remade it for iPhone and the iPhone they remake it for would
It's
be as
still a phone.
powerful as the PlayStation 3 was? Because that'll
It's still a
happen
phone.
in the
You're
next
still
couple
dealing
years.
with a phone that's got a screen that's like 4 inches by 6 inches or whatever it is. You
But
know,
AirPlay,
it's not the proper way to experience it.
I'm just messing with you. But that
Some people think like that, though. I mean,
that
that's one of the things that I don't understand about mobile gaming uh, freaking what am I thinking? Handheld gaming.
right.
Is that some people try to put these like big cinematic, like real games on these tiny little handhelds, and that to me just never seemed like a good idea. I think that games on handhelds should be more of the arcadey, simple, non-cinematic, epic experience type games.
Hmm. I think there's room for both on handhelds, but you're right. The formats have different strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
The cinematic stuff, people who want that on handhelds generally are handheld only or handheld dominant, probably because they travel a lot or just want to be able to uh, Xenoblade's a good example. Like that game is so massive and so story heavy and story driven that you could be like, well, why would you want to? That's obviously you'd want to play that on a huge TV, at home, get the full experience. But then they released the 3DS version, and because it's such a massive game, because it's 80 hours long, and because it's a JRPG where you can go off and do bite-sized chunk things, it is also kind of suited for a handheld, where you can just constantly gnaw away at it while
Yeah,
you're you know
and I know I might be in the minority on this because I know that I live, as part of a generation of people that are perfectly content to spend hours on their phones at home. And I've just never been like that. So, I mean, I might be the one who's out of touch as far as that's concerned.
no, I mean, everybody has their own preferences. I'm kind of 50-50 on it, to be honest. Like, I was really happy that Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate was on 3DS and Wii U,
Mm.
because I was able to use both advantages. And then I was kind of sad that the sequel wasn't for home consoles, because I really feel like uh, it would it would benefit from that. But I also like taking it on the go. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
the most popular series is for the Nintendo handhelds is Pokemon. I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
And I've always thought that was a series that's really suited for that platform. Because every game has a lot of content, but it's presented in a way that's visually, very simple and sort of easy to fit on a screen like that and play.
Hmm. And the controls don't really require a lot of finesse. Like you wouldn't want to
Right, yeah.
play
You can
Bayonetta
play it on
2
menus,
on a
basically.
handheld, for instance.
That's actually, yeah, that's one of the reasons why actually Final Fantasy worked really well, 7 worked really well on a computer, because all you really need to play it is arrow keys and the enter key.
Hmm.
And then there's like a few random mini games where you need other buttons, but apart from that, you can play with basically just 5 buttons because it's all menu based.
Or a virtual D-pad.
Yeah.
The original copy of Final Fantasy VII PC came with a cardboard overlay that you set over the numpad on your
Yeah,
keyboard.
you had to play it on numpad. I remember a
You
friend of
played
mine had it.
only on numpad, and
Yep.
the thing I always hated about that game was your arrow keys are normal orthogonal, left, right, up, down, and your movement is all this weird off diagonal, and it drove me crazy the entire time I played through that game. This is like, the world does pressing up make me go up left or up right, and what does pressing left make me go? Do I go up left or down left? Like, you have to, I have to, I had to constantly remember, like, okay, do I need to angle my keyboard this way or that way? What way makes sense with the screen?
Yeah, it was not a very good port, but we still played it. That was a friend of mine. He had it on his computer. We'd play Final Fantasy VII and Mech Warrior.
Hmm. I think that's Malice. I think that's like an isometric issue, because I could never. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around isometric games with a D-pad as well.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
well, the thing is, it was pre-analog, so there were only 4 directions to go in. But sometimes, even on the D-pad on a PlayStation on 7, sometimes it didn't quite make sense.
Hmm.
I mean, I've played, like Super Mario RPG was an isometric view, but when I pressed up, I went up. Like the diagonals on the controller corresponded to diagonals on the screen.
Hmm.
And with Final Fantasy VII, the orthogonal directions on the controller corresponded with diagonals on the screen, which was what threw everything off.
Hmm.
Like they just feel like a terrible design decision.
I don't think they put a whole lot of thought into the PC port.
I think it was
Probably.
on the PlayStation too, wasn't it?
I
Maybe it
think it was
wasn't,
a
but
problem.
Anyways, the next topic, upcoming games. Anything you guys are looking to play? I know The Witcher 3 just came out, and
Yeah.
so that's like the PS4, Xbox One, PC game of the month. The Wii U game is Splatoon. So what are you guys interested in? What are you looking at?
Well, Witcher 3 is definitely interesting.
Have you been
I
playing it?
have two. I haven't started playing 3. 2, it's playing it on a keyboard is a bit difficult. The combat system is more complex than you'd think it would be, and it's a little bit hard to manage with keys. I think it would be a lot more intuitive with a controller. But the issue with 3 is that it might slay my hardware because 2, I mean, 2 is, 2 is still a fairly decent looking game, and my computer can run it fairly well. But 3, trying to get more than, the low settings on that might be difficult. So that's kind of what's preventing me from wanting to buy it on PC.
This'll probably go back to the Kickstarter topic, but what I'm looking forward to is Ukulele.
Oh, is that coming out soon?
I don't know. They're still having their Kickstarter.
Right. I don't. Yeah. The last I heard about it, they just launched their Kickstarter. But anyways, you're excited for it. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a throwback 3D platformer like from the N64 PS1 era by some original Rare people, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a really good era for platformers, actually. Some of my favorites of all time come from then.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, 6, you were saying?
Yeah. It's just that I think there isn't a whole lot of 3D platformers in this day and age, and basically the two that are pretty much most well known right now they're going to be Ukulele, this game, and another game called A Hat in Time.
Haven't heard of it.
Well, I'm not gonna get into the details of that game, but
what was this game called?
A Hat in Time.
Is that like Henry Hatsworth?
You actually play as a girl.
Oh, so it's nothing like Henry Hatsworth, which was a DS 2D platform RPG.
No, this one's a 3D platformer as well.
Platform puzzler, I think. Okay. So what's the twist with A Hat in Time? I assume time travel of some kind. It's a mechanic. Or the plot, maybe?
I think it's just part of the plot, yeah. But Grant Kirkhope is doing the soundtrack for Ukulele, but he's also helping with the soundtrack for A Hat in Time.
Interesting. He was with Retro a lot. He did the soundtrack to Donkey Kong Country Returns.
That was David Wise.
No, David Wise did the sequel, Tropical Freeze, but Kirkhope did...
Well, Kirkhope didn't do Donkey Kong Country Returns or Tropical Freeze.
Really?
No, it was...
Not seeing it as credits.
Who am I thinking of?
I think it was Kenji Yamamoto.
Yamamoto did Returns?
Yeah, and then it was him and David Wise that did Tropical Freeze.
Right. Really? Then what did Kirkhope do?
Donkey Kong 64.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
That doesn't sound right.
There's 4 composers for Donkey Kong Country Returns listed on Wikipedia, and they're all Japanese.
Oh, really? Guess I was wrong. Oh, he went with Rare. So he did Viva Pinata, Banjo-Kazooie, Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
Yeah.
Kingdom
Viva
of
Pinata.
Amalur.
I have Viva Pinata. That's a fun game.
Did you get the sequel, Trouble in Paradise?
I did not,
Why not?
because I didn't want to. There were other games at the time. That was a generation of console games where there was seemingly something coming out that I wanted to play every month. And so Viva Pinata and the sequels thereof kept getting pushed to the bottom of the list. I ended up getting Viva Pinata as a gift.
Mm,
But I did enjoy it, surprisingly. I didn't think I would have that much fun with a gardening game.
mm. You should try Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. Oh, that game. I've never played it.
Oh, that game.
Right, I had to think about it for a second, but yeah, I do remember what you're talking about now. Yeah, I've never played it.
It's a fun little life sim kind of game.
What platforms is it on?
Any
Everything Nintendo.
anything
Oh,
Nintendo
that would
after
explain
GameCube.
why I've never played it, because I haven't bought a Nintendo platform since the 64, and haven't wanted to either.
Well, you're missing out. Okay, so Malice, what are you looking forward to? What are you playing or going to buy?
What am I going to buy? It's nothing because I don't have income right now. But
What are you going to sell your body for?
What are you gonna pirate?
if I, well, if I had money or my brother gets it and lends it to me, Splatoon, the demo was pretty fun. I enjoyed that.
Oh, really?
I'd like to see more of the game. I like to see what else you do,
Hmm.
like just beyond that mode. Like I think if I had more than a brief set of random matches over the course of two separated 1 hour, um, I think it would be easier. Like I could get into it and sort of learn how it plays a bit better.
Hmm.
Because when you're just thrown in and it's just like figure out how to play, good
Yeah,
luck.
yeah.
Then it's really awkward and it can be frustrating when you're trying to adjust to controls and get your joystick sensitivity and your motion sensitivity just right, and you
Hmm.
can't because you can't do it in the middle of a round because stupid reasons. Um, but I enjoyed the game. If I can, if I find it on the cheap after a while, I mean, I could definitely see me getting that and screwing around with that for a while. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Uh,
Um,
I'm still on the fence. Did you play the test fire today?
I did not. I think it was 5 o'clock hour here,
Mm.
and that is not a good hour. Usually that's kind of our family out to eat dinner hour. Like usually it's in the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hour.
Well,
So
they
that was
they
a really
extended
awkward
it
time.
because the servers were crashing or something.
Well, I didn't know about it. I mean, I, I feel like I got a good idea of how it played from the previous two. I played for one of the full hours last time. I don't think I played on the other. One of them was in the middle of the night here.
Hmm.
Like in the middle of the night where I'm not up, like at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is it doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. Um, and then the other time, I think I ended up not playing the other time either. I felt I got a good idea of turf war from the full 1 hour I got the first time it was up.
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I would get a lot out of the other ones when that's all you have, and then months later I might play the full game.
Hmm.
But my impressions of it were good. It was fun. It was cute. It was, and it could be frustrating because it's really hard to coordinate with people
Mm.
because you can't communicate with them.
Yep, no voice chat.
Okay, I can say booyah and one other little phrase, which if you could customize that with even some rudimentary commands, it would help.
Suck a dick.
Maybe with something like useful to your team, perhaps.
Mm.
Um, I think it definitely has potential, and I'd like to see what the full game has, like what the full content is.
Mm.
But I think definitely at its core, it was definitely I enjoy I enjoyed the hour I played. It was a lot of fun.
It does, yeah. It looks very fun. I don't know if it seems like there's not very many like arenas or content in general, so I'm just kind of holding off for a little bit, and I'll see what kind of online community develops. There was one of the videos. I think it was Game Explain released a video where the guy had gotten so much time with it that he was just like completely dominating everybody. So it's going to be interesting to see like once people actually get skills, what it'll look like, you know.
Yeah, once you have time to just sit down for an afternoon or an evening and really get into the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, let me know how that goes. Um, cool. So final topic. Uh, I believe it was. My mind is totally blanking right now. Uh,
You
That's
didn't
why you
bring
write
your
things
notes?
down.
Taizuke compiled the list for our game of the year.
Taizuke.
Top
Is that the
10.
dude from what, Bolivia or something?
What's that?
Is that the guy from Bolivia or something?
I
Or am I thinking of someone else?
I think you're thinking of somebody else. I don't know if he's actually ever said where he's from.
Okay.
But yeah, our top game of the year for last year is Bayonetta 2. Um,
Is in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico? Is that it?
Well,
Puerto
that's what the
Rico.
profile says.
Okay.
So you are thinking somebody different.
I was thinking of a different country in Latin America.
They're all
Puerto
the
Rico
same.
is.
There's
I mean, Puerto
America and
Rico is
not
sort of
America.
like our not 51st state, but it's practically its own country.
Right. Any thoughts on that? I didn't actually play or vote for Bayonetta 2, so it's surprising that it won to me. I figured that my vote would be like, the single deciding vote, but whatever.
Well, I'm looking at the list, and it must have been a pretty weak year if Wolfenstein: The New Order got fifth. Because I played a few hours of that game, and it was like the most mediocre shooter in the history of mediocre shooters.
Really? A lot of people
I, I
seem to
heard
like it a lot.
I heard some good things about it. My brother really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. I played it, and I was like, this feels mediocre, this looks mediocre, just everything about it is forgettable.
Are you sure you played the New Order and not the original or the reboot Wolfenstein from a few years
No,
ago?
I was playing the New Order with Nazi dogs and giant steampunky coils and electric voltage and stuff. It was a new one. It just wasn't interesting to me.
I actually liked it.
Gasp.
I played some of the games on the list, but I didn't vote for anything.
I've never played Bayonetta 2. The first one though I did play, and that's like a worthy addition to the genre. The Bayonetta 1, that was a good game. I mean, it was ridiculous, in terms of visually, and it was something that you'd never play with other human beings around.
Yeah.
True.
But in terms of its combat, it really was up there with like Ninja Gaiden and Devil May Cry in terms of its quality and its depth.
I enjoyed Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. I cannot play Ninja Gaiden, and I
The Xbox
struggle.
one?
No, I tried Ninja Gaiden 3 on the Wii U
Oh,
version.
okay. You don't want to play 2 or 3. They both suck. You want to play Ninja Gaiden for the Xbox or Black. Either one works.
What about
But if
Sigma?
if I had an Xbox, I would try it, but I don't. So
Yeah, no. 2 was a mess, and 3 was just a joke. But the first one was an extremely good game.
and I tried Devil May Cry, the original one, and I may have tried Devil May Cry 3, but I couldn't gel with the combat. Like I'm just
Okay.
like I just can't do this.
Yeah, 3 is usually regarded as the best one in the series, and I understand why. I like 4 a little bit better, just because it opens up the combat in such a way that, with Dante anyway, because there are 2 protagonists in that game, that you can sort of uncork an infinite number of different combos.
But Sarge, what about DMC Devil May Cry?
You mean goofy looking guy saves the world from evil corporations or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, that game said Devil May Cry, but no.
Well, I mean, I have to give some props because I think the Game of the Year edition or whatever it's called, they made it 60 frames per second. So you don't actually have to imagine the feel of 60 frames. You can actually get 60 frames a second.
Well, that's
the
good.
release.
I mean, I shit on it a lot, but it actually wasn't terrible. It just wasn't nearly as good as a Devil May Cry game should be, and it wasn't actually a real Devil May Cry game because the characters that are supposed to be in it weren't in it.
But they were in it. They were just younger
And not Japanese for some reason.
and not white haired for some reason.
Yeah. So, Malice, if you play Devil May Cry 3, you know how sort of at the beginning of a level you can pick like a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, and a style?
I can't tell you how long it's been since I played these games,
Okay.
and
Well,
I didn't
basically,
play it very long.
Assume
so
that's true.
basically, you do that at the beginning of levels, or you can switch it out. In 3, in 4, everything is unlocked all the time, so you can switch all your weapons and all your styles at any time you want, which basically means you can do an absurd amount of things, which is a lot of fun to learn.
Hmm.
If my personality lent itself to having the patience to sit down and do that, I'd probably play fighting games too. But it doesn't, so I don't.
Okay. See, I like fighting games, just not
I
that
don't have
much.
the I don't have the patience to learn anything besides rudimentary Smash.
Then you probably wouldn't like Devil May Cry. It's a game
Nah,
that requires a lot of learning to get really good at.
Hmm.
like fortunately for me, like playing through Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2, like once you get the basics down, it's like which buttons are the punch and kick buttons, what lets you dodge out of the way of everything that will ever hurt you in the entire game. Like it's just fun just like going around once you kind of get in the groove
Yeah,
and just
yeah. When I
shooting,
first
killing
played the
everything.
first one, it was immediately reminiscent of Devil May Cry, um, and it was a lot of fun for that reason because like Devil May Cry is really good. Bayonetta reminds me of Devil May Cry, so it's really good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if it was just because I just come off of playing the first one. I felt like the second one in Bayonetta, the second one played better, I think. It was, a lot of times it felt a little more forgiving than the first one, I think, perhaps. But I feel like from a narrative perspective, I thought the first one ended up being better just because of how ridiculous the game is and how ridiculous the narrative gets was fully realized in the first game. The second
Right.
game didn't feel as epic to me. Like I like how the narrative all just came full circle, how everything made sense by the end. Well, as much sense as that game can make by the end of it. But the second one didn't feel as epic in scale as the first one did.
Hmm. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
at the end of the first one, spoilers. You basically I haven't played it, but you basically fight God after doing a Space Harrier mini game, right? So kind of.
Probably. I'm sure there were rockets. I know the rockets involved in the second one with motorcycles on the rockets, which was the dumbest thing ever.
Hmm.
Yeah, it got that big.
I also see that Dragon Age Inquisition is on the list. Did anyone here play it? I didn't.
Nope.
Nope.
Because I really didn't like the second one, and BioWare as a company has gone so downhill in recent years that I just wasn't interested.
Ah, that got 12 votes. Wow.
Yep.
Burn the
I
witches.
I didn't vote for any games on that thread.
Neither
What?
did I.
Shovel Knight ended up a lot lower than I thought it probably would have.
Yeah, game needs to be higher. I'm surprised the Persona 4 fighting game beat it out.
I think this list comes down to who actually participated in the thread and the voting, and
Well,
Or who
and
actually
sort of
played
that's
games.
that's on you people.
and what pool of people they're pulling from. And it's not like a general populace kind of view.
Well,
It's
yeah, but
it's
that's why
people
we do our own, as opposed to, asking
letting
people on the
yeah
street.
letting.
Well, I didn't participate because I don't think I played any new releases in 2014.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I've gone from buying, a few video games every year to buying none, or like random indie games on Steam that have been out for a few years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the newest game that I've played is where is it? When did Gone Home come out?
Before.
That was a couple years ago.
That was
That
like
was good. That
2013.
was a good game.
Yeah, I think that's the newest release that I've actually played.
What about? I think New Order came out after that.
What's that?
Wolfenstein New Order.
Oh, okay, so that would be more recent. Yeah. But I didn't play through it. I mean, I just played it for a few hours and decided I didn't like it.
Oh.
So I was thinking more like in terms of games that I've actually played enough of to really say, okay, I can vote for this as far as like Game of the Year is concerned.
Right.
Yeah,
When the store page loads, I'll tell you what year it was.
that's what I felt. But I played a few games, but still, I didn't feel like voting.
You non-voters, you.
Shame on me. Wait, no.
Vote or die.
Well, now you can't complain about the list.
Oh, I was never complaining about it. I was just making notes about it. Okay, yeah, the game came out in August 2013. So that's really the last game that came out that I've played all the way in full.
Jeez.
And that was more an interactive movie than anything.
Yeah, I liked it actually. I thought it was a really cool concept, and I'd like to see it
a great
fleshed out.
experience.
It sort of reminded me of if you took the sort of steampunky complicatedness out of a game like Myst, and then just made it sort of like a more organic exploring game where you piece together a story. And it because it reminded me of Myst in certain ways is one of the reasons why I liked it, because I was always a really big fan of those point and click adventure games.
Cool. I think that about wraps up our discussion for tonight. Thank you everybody for stopping by and giving your feedback on these topics, and I'm trying to make these weekly again. I don't think Saturday's going to work out for me as much. In fact, I could have gone out tonight instead of recording this, but I made the sacrifice for you people and the listeners, so you better be damn thankful.
Well, I have a land to go to as soon as we hang up, so...
Let it be known that Andrex gave up alcohol for us.
Yes, and socialization with other human beings.
I'm a human being.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I would, and that's what counts. He's not. He's the possessed human, which is halfway a human being, maybe.
Okay.
Before we end,
the listeners aren't going to get that because I cut that off from the beginning.
Oh.
That's a damn shame.
But before we end, I wanted to say, I think you would be the only one interested, Andrex, but I made a Let's Race thread.
I did see that. I wanted to talk about that tonight, actually.
Okay.
But
we're not actually ending.
We are out of time, unfortunately, but I will post in that thread, and I think it's a great idea, so I might join you. I'm not exactly sure yet.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So yeah, if you're listening to this, go check out Six's Sonic CD racing thread. It's going to be a grand old time, and we'll have fun.
Grand old time, he says.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Wednesdays. It would be kind of a weird day at first, but I think it would work out because it's like, what else are you going to do on Wednesday, you know?
As long as you don't do it too late.
Yeah. You gotta go to your satanic cult.
At night.
No, it's just, I get up at about 6 in the morning, so I can't be running late.
All right,
so
I'm cutting it off here.
I can't take
you seriously with that voice.
All right, fine. So basically, as long as we keep it to before 9 p.m. Pacific, then I can usually be around because it's Wednesday. I'm working, so I don't have shit to do on the weeknights.
Okay, cool.
Oh wait, Wednesday. Shit, never mind. I'm usually busy on Wednesday evenings.
Well,
I just remembered.
We'll hash it out. It could be some other day.
Right.
Post in the thread with your thoughts. Cool. So, good night, everybody, and thank you for showing up.
Peace out.
Well, see ya.
Bye.
Dad was such a drag. He had all the best toys in his garage, but didn't know how to use them. So one day he goes and throws them all away, burns any trace they ever existed. And anyone who ever supported him is thrown into the fire too. But he's got new toys now, mobile phones. And now that he's burned down all those bridges, there's no going back.